Hello and welcome to the Fun Kids Bookworms podcast. My name is Bex and I love books, and I'm pretty sure that you do as well. I mean, you are listening to the Bookworms podcast after all. This week in the show we've got some pretty awesome authors, including Mel Taylor-Bessent and Graeme Hall, telling us about the ultimate kids' guide to dogs. But first, to Mel Taylor-Bessent. Now, Race to Imagination Island is such a great book. It's kind of Wreck-It Ralph meets Mario Kart meets Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it's about Imagination Island looking for 4 children to be named the new protectors of Imagination Island. And lots of kids from all around the world gather to see if they are up to the challenge. Let's find out more. So I'm here right now with Mel Taylor-Bessent, who is the author of Race to Imagination Island. Hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming in. You have created quite an impressive brand new world, which I've read a lot of kids' books, Mel. I've never quite read anything like this before.
Oh, wow.
Which is very, very exciting.
Okay.
And so I guess let's explain to our listeners, what is Imagination Island?
So Race to Imagination Island is set on an island that only children are able to get to. No adults allowed.
Right.
And when these children use their imaginations, the island comes to life. So anything can happen. They try to picture it in their heads and then poof, it will appear right in front of them. So they could imagine a private concert with Taylor Swift or a half dragon, half unicorn called Underpants. And Luca is our main character, and poor Luca is terrified of absolutely everything. And he ends up on the island by accident. And when he's put on the island, he is put into a team, and together they have to complete challenges, riddles and clues and race across the island. The last racer to reach the checkpoint is eliminated, and they can never return to the island again.
Which we'll get onto later, because we need to talk about something that genuinely affected me. But before that, so what are we winning here if we win Imagination Island?
Good question. So the 4 winners of the race become the protectors of the island itself.
It's a bit of a kind of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory situation. You've got people from around the world finding the light to be able to go. And tell us some of the characters we've got there.
Okay, so we've got 16 racers from all over the world. Luca is from England, and the rest of his team, there is who is from India. There is Ali, who is quirky and confident and loud and just a bit strange, but I love her, who's from Scotland. And Fliss, who is from USA, who is very young, very small, but she loves to blow things up.
Yeah, exactly. Perfectly described. And we've got other teams of people as well. Some of them are a little bit cocky. Some of them are clever. Well, they're all very clever because they wouldn't be there if they weren't, I suppose.
Yeah, we've got the confident racers, the brave racers, the mean racers like Tiago, the very handsome and heroic Grayson from Canada. They all come with their own quirks and individual personalities, and that was a lot of fun to try to bring out. Actually, it was a lot of characters to play with, so that was a bit of a challenge in itself.
I was quite interested in that, actually, because you've got loads of characters, which is great because you've got lots of different people to write about, but must be quite hard to keep track of. But as a reader was great because they're in different teams, you know who's in the teams, and that was quite a nice way of introducing people.
I hope so. And each team, I kind of wanted each team to have its own individual personality, I guess. So Team Dreg they're just not very good at anything, bless them. Team Talent basically have all of the talent. They are the strongest, the fastest, the quickest, but also the cruelest. Team Echo are very intelligent. They're very clever, they're very strategic, and they are always a step or 2 ahead of the other teams. And Team Ferret really care about the island, about the animals and the plants, and trying to keep the island safe. So they all have their own individual kind of quirks as well.
Yeah, they're a lovely group of people, but Luca, of course, is the star of the show. Luca, was it amusing to you to write a list of things that he was scared of? Because it is literally everything in the world.
Bless his heart. He is literally terrified of absolutely everything. So when he's put onto an island where anything can happen, I mean, it's like his worst nightmare has basically come to life.
Because his plan is just I just want to get home. He
just wants to go home as soon as possible, but he can't. He's only able to go home if he comes last in the race.
So that is basically what he's aiming to do every time. And every time something kind of happens to stop that for him. And of course, you've got his gang who he does grow to love. He
does.
I don't want to spoil too much, but when the teams were being picked, I was upset on his behalf. I'm going to put it out there.
Me too. He definitely didn't end up with the races that he wanted to be with.
Yeah.
But he comes to love them.
He does. And it must be quite exciting writing about a race because it is a pacey book.
It really is. The chapters move quickly. I want readers to feel as if they're a part of the race as well. So it's very quick. The chapters are very short, but that was intentional.
It's great as well because often you read a book and you feel like, oh, I have to get to this boring bit of when they're walking down the street to get to like the actual action. Whereas this is just like the whole thing is action.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of adventure, a lot of action. Stuff is happening and appearing all over the place. So it was really fun to write and quite freeing when you can write about absolutely anything.
Because it's Imagination Island, people can imagine anything. What was your best thing that you imagined for the gang?
Oh, good question.
I quite like the food that kind of just that Ali made, the tap stones.
Oh, the tap counters. Yeah. Yes, where you're able to tap on them and then ta-da, you've got some chips, some chicken nuggets, some pudding. It's great. My favourite thing they imagined is probably something that is actually a huge spoiler. It comes at the very, very end of the story. It's something that Luca imagines and he's absolutely terrified of it, but it actually saves the day too.
Good.
Is that a spoiler or is that okay?
No, that's great. That's really, really good because then people, if they weren't before racing through the book, they'll be racing through even more to see what Luca does to save the day. Now, I don't want to give too much away about the book. All I'll say is I was very cross when it ended.
I'm sorry.
I was very cross. Oh, again, I don't want to spoil it. Well, I have to tell you out of earshot of the microphone because I don't want to ruin it for any listeners. But there was one character in particular that I think, obviously, that I loved and need to talk about with you later.
Absolutely.
So we'll discuss that later. But I really enjoyed this. What is the plan for Luca and the rest of the gang?
So I've already written Race to Imagination Island 2 and the title, if I'm allowed to tell you, is going to be Race to Echo's Edge. And I'm already planning Race to Imagination Island 3. I've actually planned 8. In the series. I'm allowed to write the first 3. And if everybody enjoys the first 3, then maybe I'm allowed to write the rest. I really hope so. I've got some really huge plans, some twists and turns, some surprises. And Luca goes on a massive journey. Bless him.
I mean, I can imagine both physically and emotionally.
Yeah, yes.
He's such a lovely character because part of him is just like, I want to go home, but then he's like, maybe I quite like this. Maybe I'm making friends. Finally, it's where I belong.
He is. I think he's realising he can actually enjoy things if he tries. And he becomes, I'd say, 1% more confident in the first book. But I'm hoping to really see his confidence flourish in the next few.
It's so exciting. I was trying to think of like what I could compare it to or give context with listeners. And I was thinking like, obviously 13-story Treehouse because it's like
I love that series. Yeah,
you've got like Super Mario Kart, Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes.
You've got all these like elements in there that's so exciting, and it just works so well as a book. So Mel, thank you so much for it. But before I let you go, can you do my quick fire round of questions? If
oh my god,
okay?
Yes, I can.
Just a little short one here for you. So first up, books or Kindles?
Books.
Okay. Heroes or villains?
Heroes.
Team Echo or Team Talent?
Oh, Team Echo.
Film adaptation or TV adaptation?
Oh, film. That would be epic.
Beginnings or endings?
Endings.
Okay.
I'm trying to be really quick and I'm really not.
There's no pressure, don't worry about it. It's already 10 times quicker than most authors, it's fine. Hogwarts or Narnia?
Hogwarts.
Snot mammoths or slumber shrubs?
Slumber shrubs. You can sleep anywhere.
They are incredible. I kind of want one for the Fun Kids studio, to be honest.
That would be so much fun.
Laptop or write by hand?
Write by hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I love it. I think I'm more creative that way. Oh, wow. And then I type it all up afterwards.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Do you write 9 to 5 or do you write when you fancy?
Oh, when I fancy. It's a lot of evenings, weekends, whenever I can.
Okay.
I love writing, so.
Ali or Om?
Oh, don't do this to me, Bex. Om.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paddington Bear or Winnie the Pooh?
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. And finally, big one, salt and vinegar or cheese and onion?
Salt and vinegar.
Yes.
Is that the right answer?
Yes. Oh, Mel, you can say anything for anything else, but that's the one I care about.
Wicked. Okay, cool.
Salt and vinegar. Yeah, correct. In which case, if you'd said cheese and onion, I probably would have cut the interview off early, to be honest. Thank you so much for telling us all about Race to Imagination Island. I can't wait to read the rest of them. There better be 7, otherwise I'll be kicking off.
That's it. Thank you so much for having me.
There's 7 more to come.
Hopefully.
And Mel, thank you for telling us all about it.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an absolute blast. Thank you.
No worries. Oh, I love talking to Mel about the book. It is brilliant. Now, next up, we're going to be chatting to Graeme Hall all about the ultimate kids' guide to dogs. So I'm joined right now by TV presenter and author Graeme Hall. Hello, how you doing?
Hello, Bex.
Now, I am so happy with your book because I love dogs very, very much indeed.
Right.
And I was reading it, and you really go in depth. You go into, like, the history of dogs here.
Well, do you know, we had a working title for this book before we had the finished title, and it was all about dogs.
Right.
So it really is all about dogs. It's the ultimate guide. So where would you start? Well, where did dogs come from? What's the history of dogs?
Yeah, you go really back into, like, they came from wolves, and it's, like, the kind of, like, history of how they kind of got bred and how we know them now, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Because once upon a time, they had jobs, you see. So, you know, a person in a field might have needed a dog to round up some sheep, that kind of thing. So what do? Well, you breed one dog with another dog who happens to be quite good at it, and then that goes with another dog and another dog. Before you know it, you've got a border collie. So they all started with jobs. Things like the German Shepherd dog that we all know. If you think about it, the clue's in the name, Shepherd. That was a sheep dog as well. So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
And even now, dogs, you know, do have jobs.
They do, absolutely. So we got police dogs, for example. There's different kinds of police dogs as well. There's the ones that keep naughty people in order. There's the ones that go searching out for drugs and things like that as well. They've got to be good with their nose, of course, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what they do, really interesting, they sniff out something like drugs or something like that. When they find it, they indicate. So they'll point, or sometimes they freeze, and then the policeman or the policewoman, they will go in and go, right, we'll pick that out. They reward the dog by throwing a ball usually. So the way the dog's thinking is, right, I don't really understand what that smell is or anything, but what I do know is if I do the thing, when I smell the smell, I get to play with my ball.
Yeah, it's a little treat, isn't it?
It's fab. Yeah.
And that's, I guess, how you train up dogs, which we will talk about a little later. But am I right in thinking, is it a Rottweiler you've got?
Yeah, well, I did have. Sadly, I used to have two, but no, they passed away I think it's about 7 years ago now, one after the other. But Axel and Gordon, and they were lovely, you know. Great big teddy bears, love kids, both of them.
Great.
Yeah.
You don't think that about Rottweilers, do you? They've got a reputation of maybe being a bit more, like, mean.
Yeah, well, do you know, it's a bit like people. Sometimes you see somebody, you think, ooh, they look a bit scary. But the truth is actually, often people that look scary and dogs that look scary aren't, you know. So you've got to never judge a book by the cover, as they say.
And are they your favourite types of dog?
Rotties?
Yeah.
Yeah. If push came to shove, I probably would say that. But I've also had a boxer a bit more recently.
Right.
And boxers are the jokers of the dog world. They're lovely, friendly things. And I'm sure they've got a bit of a sense of humour. So somebody recently said to me, if I was a dog, apparently I would be a boxer. So
That's interesting. You know, it's so funny because one of my friends, when I call him, he has a picture of a golden retriever on his phone.
Does he?
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
That's you in dog form, Bex, the golden retriever.
Yeah,
I was like, I'll take it.
That's it.
Although having said that, I had a Labrador growing up, and reading the book, one of the kind of personalities of Labrador is they love their food.
They do.
And that's how I do also kind of identify.
Oh, there you go, really?
Yeah,
Now, here's an interesting little fact about Labradors. 24% of Labradors have a gene that means that they never feel full. So they want to keep eating and keep eating. Isn't that interesting?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's not all Labradors.
Okay.
But about a quarter of Labradors, actually, yeah, bless them, they never feel full.
That would explain my dog Sky, who once ate a frozen pizza from the side of the kitchen.
They're crunchy, you know.
Yeah. And she found out as well. We also had a Jack Russell a little later as well, and very different type of dog. But I love those dogs as well. And as you discuss in the book, you know, you can get small dogs, you can get medium, large dogs. There's so many out there for every person.
Absolutely. And they're all a bit different. So I've lived with a Jack Russell as well. He was a very cheeky little character. We've got a Patterdale now at home, which is like a little black terrier.
Right.
And she's really old now, bless her. She's 16 years old, and now she's gone blind in her old age, so she bumps into things. But yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of dogs, all sorts of colours, all sorts of sizes, and there's a dog out there for everybody.
Absolutely. And you go through all of the different breeds of dog in the book, which is great as well.
Yeah.
And then also, you talk about, first of all, we need to talk about how to meet a dog, because I think this is something, if you're scared of dogs, you don't quite know what to do. But I was taught, is it right to show your hand and then they can sniff it?
Can be. So the first thing to know about dogs is, believe it or not, dogs don't like a cuddle quite like we do, right? Because that idea of kind of the arms going round and being restricted often makes dogs feel a bit weird. So it's good to stroke dogs if they want to, but a cuddle, I wouldn't do that. Certainly not with somebody else's dog.
Sure.
So the golden rule is always ask the people if it's okay to say hello to their dogs, because most dogs are fine, but some dogs aren't so friendly.
Yeah.
So you never know. So you always ask permission. Second thing, yes, you could put your hand out, let them sniff you, but let them come to you. Okay, so don't go sort of chasing after them with your hand, going sniff me, because they'll probably think you're a bit weird.
Sure.
But if the dog comes to you and has a little sniff, now the next thing is you could give them a little tickle on the chest or under the chin. And the reason I say that is that some dogs are a bit funny about having a hand go over their head. So if you imagine you went to sort of tickle them on the head, they just see this big hand coming down over the top of the head. Well, how would you feel? It's a bit, what are you doing? So it's a lot easier if they can see the hand coming. And most dogs love a tickle on the chest.
I think it's a nice thing to do as well, isn't it? It's just like it shows that you're a friend.
Yes.
Rather than anything else.
Yeah.
And then also we talk in the book about training dogs as well. Now, when I had my Labrador Sky, I desperately tried to train her to do tricks. I got sit. She went down. I got paw. Never got roll over. Couldn't get her to do roll over.
There you go. Well, there's a trick to that. If you've got a treat in front of a dog's nose, the nose tends to follow where the treat is going.
Yeah, sure.
So what you need to do is just slowly rotate that treat around, in a big circle. And if the nose follows it enough, if you think about it, the rest of the body's going to follow the nose, and they're going to do a roll over. Except you might have to break it down into stages. So maybe half a rollover treat. Well done. Do that a few times.
Right.
And then maybe tomorrow it's half a rollover. You get the point.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're there.
Is there a specific dog or a kind of dog that's better to train or easier to train, do you think?
That's a really good question. There have been lists in the past of the most intelligent dogs, for example. And certainly those dogs with jobs, guide dogs, for example. I saw a guide dog today on my way to the studio being trained, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, really interesting. He was walking across a pedestrian crossing in front of us, and then he decided he was going to have a stop.
Oh.
Just check out the traffic.
Sure, okay.
So maybe that wouldn't be so good when you're actually doing the job, but he's only halfway through his training.
Maybe
Bless
more
him,
training
he's
is
not
needed
perfect.
there, yeah.
So it is very much about certain breeds are particularly good for certain jobs, and guide dogs for the blind, a guide dogs charity, they breed their own dogs, so they often are Labradors or golden retrievers, sometimes Labradoodles, some German shepherds actually. That being said, well, look, I mean, it's like people. You don't have to be a genius to be able to learn things. All dogs can learn all sorts of things. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just get the dog that suits you and then do your best to train them.
And of course, the age-old question, can you teach an old dog new tricks?
Oh, yeah, you can.
Yeah?
Definitely. Yes, I've done it so many times because often dogs get rehomed, which is a great thing to do, to take on a dog who's had a previous life. And they can move somewhere new and learn new things with that. So, yeah, no, absolutely you can. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, our Jack Russell, Bonnie, was a rescue dog.
Right.
And she was very timid at first and very nervous and very shy. And eventually she did come out of her shell. And it was nice to see her kind of adapt. And yeah, you're right. It is a lovely thing to be able to train those dogs, isn't it?
It's true. Same with people, So if you keep the brain ticking over, you're going to have a happier life. And it's the same with older dogs.
And we should also mention Alice Tate, who does the illustrations for the book.
We absolutely should. Alice is a brilliant illustrator. So the thing about a kid's book is, well, yeah, there's a few words in it. I wrote those. But there's some fantastic illustrations. I mean, who am I kidding? It's not just a kid's book. I mean, as an adult, it's the sort of book I would like. I'm really pleased with it. And Alice has done a great job. I've got to say as well, there's a picture in there that she's done of me.
Is it of you as a Roman?
As a Roman emperor,
I saw this one.
right? Well, she's given me a six-pack that I don't really have, if I'm honest. So I'm very grateful to her for making me look so fit and elegant. But no, actually, that's not quite me.
I was going to ask if you posed for it. I was going to.
No, I didn't. No, yeah. So I mean, I just think the illustrations are fab. They're really funny. They're quite cartoony. They're actually really accurate as well, because the sections in there where we sort of describe the names of the different parts of a dog's body, like the dew claw, for example.
Yeah.
So even though it's kind of fun and it's cartoony, we actually got a vet to check that one out because we have got the right bits that we're pointing to here, aren't we? So, yeah, I wanted to make sure it was right.
Yeah, because it is really interesting where, of course, you talk about the history of dogs and the breeds, but you do go into, like, the science of the dog and their body, and then also the training is quite in-depth, and it is quite good to just, like you say, even for adults, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the television show that you might know me from, Dogs Behaving Very Badly on Channel 5,
yeah,
I like to think it's entertaining as well as educational, you know, because, you know, it's nice to have a bit of fun, but it's also great to learn things as well.
Yeah, sure.
And so I wanted to sort of reflect that in the book, that, you know, you would pick it up, have a bit of fun with it, you know, learn things, pop it down again and think, well, okay, that's added to my knowledge, isn't it? So that's good.
It is. It's so good. And also you have some little funny asides in the book as well. So you talk about like funny dog names that you've heard.
Oh, yeah.
Because was it Noodle the Poodle?
Noodle the Poodle, yeah.
Yeah, my friend has a poodle called Strudel.
Strudel, there you go.
Strudel the Poodle, yeah.
There you go. I was talking to a fella this morning called Daniel, and he's got a spaniel.
Oh, it was meant to be. I love
great,
it.
isn't it?
I love it so much. It's so good. And then you've got some quizzes at the back as well, and you've got some fun facts. Was that quite fun to make?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was. So here's the thing. Well, you've read the book, so you might remember the answer to this one. So many people will have heard of Winston Churchill, who famously was the Prime Minister during the Second World War. A fellow with great big chops, very big gentleman. And what sort of dog would you associate him with?
Well, you think a bulldog, right?
You would think a bulldog, yeah. Poodles, it turns out to be. He was really into poodles.
And the one thing I found about poodles is there are lots of different types of them, and like they're sometimes bigger than you expect them to be.
Oh yeah, well, a standard poodle isn't really what you'd think is a standard size. That's a really quite big poodle, and so it's the same with poodle crosses. Lots of people will have a cockapoo, or a labradoodle.
My friend's got a
for
cavapoo,
example.
yeah,
a cavapoo. There you go. So half of one breed and half poodle. So poodles are smart dogs, really clever dogs. And so it adds a little bit of that sometimes. But I love a labradoodle, actually.
Yeah, they're
They're
cute.
great.
Yeah.
Because Labradors are great, big, soft, cuddly things. And poodles are smart. And you put those two things together and, well, it's got to be good, isn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Reading this book, honestly, it made me want to go and get a dog. Well, about 10 dogs, right now, immediately, to be honest.
Yeah.
And it's such a lovely read. But can you tell us one top tip that you would like to pass forward to maybe our listeners are thinking, I've got a new puppy coming, or like I should train my older dog. What top tip would you give?
Well, I'll give you a couple of top tips, really. I know that's cheating.
That's all right, I'll allow it.
One.
It's all right.
So first top tip, if you're thinking of getting a dog, whether this is a rehome dog, rescue dog, or a puppy, go for the kind of dog that suits your energy, because some people are really energetic and on it and never stop, and other people are really chilled out and a bit more laid back. You're probably going to have a happy life if you match the energy of the dog to your energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if your family like being out there, you're outdoorsy and you're always on the go and you go for walks together, a dog that likes to go for lots of walks, needs lots of exercise, perfect, right? But if you've got a dog like that and you're all kind of laid back kind of people, you spend more time at home, well, that dog might be clamoring at the door trying to get out. So I always say, don't think first of all about looks, because that's what we kind of do. Oh, I like the look of that. I'd like one of those. Think about the energy of the dog, right? And then looks comes into it towards the end, right? And I promise you 2 tips. Puppies are great. That's not a bad thing to do at all. But a rehome dog is a lovely, lovely thing to do if you can. In other words, dogs get given up for all sorts of different reasons. Sometimes people's circumstances change. Sometimes older people die and leave a dog behind, you know. And those dogs are all looking for a new home. And if you're the right family for that home, wouldn't that be great to take them on? It's a lovely, lovely thing to do. I've done both things. I've had puppies and I've had rehome dogs. But you know that feeling where a rehome dog's looking at you kind of thinking, thanks.
Yeah, no, I know. Absolutely.
You can't beat it.
You absolutely can't. I know exactly what you mean. Well, thank you so much, Graeme, for telling us all about the ultimate kids' guide to dogs. I'm guessing it's in all bookshops right now.
It is. It absolutely is. It's just been published. It's well, you can get it anywhere. So, yeah, it's the ultimate guide to dogs, but it's the guide to how to be a dog's best friend.
I love that so much. Oh, well, thank you so much for telling us all about it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
That is pretty much it from the Bookworms podcast this week. Of course, thank you to Mel and to Graeme. And if you've got any books that you've been recommending, let me know at funkidslive.com/Bex. Or, of course, just leave a comment wherever it is you're listening to this. In the meantime, I'll see you soon. And remember to read lots of books. Bye.